so I've decided to do a picture of the Grafton Gazebo. So what I did is I went and I took a photo of the Grafton Gazebo, and then I did a tracing of it. And obviously this is the one I did for my little one, and then I've blown it up and I've put it over here for my bigger one for you to watch me paint. I had decided that I was either going to put it on a board called gesso board, which this happens to be. Oh, that doesn't even look like, just like a piece of masonite type board, but it's called gesso board. And if you didn't want to use that, I think because of my technique, you'd want to use a really tight canvas, so one that wasn't too bumpy. So I'm using the gesso board, but this would work just as well. So I put my pattern on, and you could go take whatever picture you wanted or whatever angle of the gazebo. And I've decided to do it because I painted some during the fall and some of the spring. I've never done one at nighttime, and I thought, oh, this would be different. So I decided I was going to change it to nighttime. And since I took this picture, which was in the fall, this tree over here is no longer there. So Grafton had decided they were going to string lights and make it look like a tree, but I decided I was going to stick with the picture that I took, and I think that's what everybody remembers. And we do have a little tree set up in the middle of our gazebo, but it has all little yellow lights, and these are going to have little white and red lights. So that's what I did. I took the picture, I transferred it. Before I did transfer it, I did take and paint my canvas or my gesso board either with a blue-gray wash of oil or acrylics. Doesn't really make any difference. Acrylics obviously would be instant. Oils you'd have to wait for it to dry. So then I transferred, or if you're a good sketcher, you could just sketch your pattern on. But I needed something very definite because I like to do things pretty precise. And so I had put this pattern on, and then I took my micron pen, and using a ruler, I put on the main outline of the gazebo, the trees that I could see in the background, the tree that was in the front, and then these are going to be the little posts that are going to make up the fence. So these are nice little permanent ink pens. If you decide to go this route, I decided I needed to do that so I wouldn't lose my gazebo. These are permanent, so you would want to make sure that your pen was waterproof/permanent. So I'm going to start painting, and I'm going to start painting the sky. I'm being left-handed, I'll probably work this way. I'll probably start dark, maybe move in here, and then I'll come up here instead of, if I was doing it, otherwise I might do part of it and come down straight, but I think I'm going to try to work right to left. Probably most people being right-handed would be working left to right, but we'll see how this is going to work. I'm going to start with the colors. I'm using oil paints, mainly Winsor Newton, but it doesn't really matter, whatever you happen to have. This is the palette that I had out when I did the little painting. I had out black, I had ultramarine blue out, ultramarine blue, this is my cerulean blue. Ultramarine blue, I wasn't sure what I was going to use. I have Payne's gray out, raw umber, and I have white. The other colors I'll get into next week when we do the trees a little bit. So for today, those are the only colors that I plan to use. I also have a medium down in the corner here. This one happens to be called Neil McGilp. Very much like Liquin, if people are using mediums, or Gamblin has another product, but this is a new product I'm trying out and seems to work pretty good. But if you have Liquin, that works just as well. Sometimes it's nice when you're doing kind of a loose sky. It helps you move the paint a little better than using your brush cleaner, which thins your paint out. And sometimes you don't want it to be thin, but you want it to be a little heavier, and you can move it a little easier. So, I'm going to do some brush mixing probably as we go along, but I've kind of mixed up a little pile. I've got some of my Payne's gray right up here. I'm just going to start out with it, see how I like the color, and then if I need to change, I'll mix something else into it. We'll see how it's going to go on. We'll see if I can stay out of my paint here. So Lisa, if you have any questions that makes me talk more, I'll be good. Alright, so it looks almost like when I was doing this, I might have even been using Payne's Gray, a little black in it. I'm going to kind of put it on in a slip-slappy motion. It definitely looks like I used a lot of Payne's Gray and black. I might have even added a little bit of ultramarine blue to it. If I was doing it on a canvas, I might be using a stiffer brush. And even honestly, I might have come back and done a little repair work after it dried, just so it could look better for you guys to see it. Sometimes I paint with long handled brushes, but I thought for this little guy this would work out good. You always usually want to have some kind of movement in your sky. You just don't want to paint it like you were painting a house. So that's why I'm kind of using this little slip-slap motion. And then if you want to smooth it out, you can always take a mop brush and mop it out. This would be a mop. And you can soften it, and I may end up doing that. We'll see how it looks. As I move my way down, I'm going to add more white to the mix.
I love the texture you're getting in that already.
Oh, thank you. This is a nice surface, these gesso boards to paint on. They're not just slick, and they're not slick. They have some tooth to them, and particularly I have a little sponge roller that I rolled this color, which also gives it a little texture. You can see that I'm picking up some of this medium. It makes it easier for it to go on, but if you get too much, obviously that's not a good thing. I might not have thought about doing this picture at night if it wasn't one of my students had said, oh, when we start back to class in January, can we paint something with a dark sky in it? And she had bought a book of lighthouses with all these beautiful, and lighthouses, you know, in the New England area with all dark night skies. Some of them you could see the Milky Way, and I considered putting snow in the background, but I thought, oh, sometimes when you do that, you just get this one big blob off your brush or your toothbrush when you're doing it, and then you're in a mess. And I thought, oh, maybe not. Maybe I'll do this one afterwards, because I've got this one already finished, which I really like.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if this one will turn out quite as good. We'll see.
Could be even better.
It could be, you know, it could be. What I usually try to say to my students when I'm doing a demonstration or for this class or whatever, I'm more interested in having them learn what I'm doing than doing a perfect picture. There's nothing wrong with a perfect picture. So I'm going to have to stop for a minute to get a smaller brush because I want to get in there closer to the top of the gazebo. A little interesting fact, this gazebo was built, I should have looked that up and maybe, it was built for the movie Our Wilderness that was filmed in Grafton.
Oh, very cool.
So, you know, it's always played a very prominent part in Grafton's life. Plus, I know if I don't stop and do this now, I'll have no place to put my hand down. So as I was thinking, how am I going to do this? I was thinking, So this is just Payne's Gray, black, white. Just so I'm trying to make it lighter around here.
I suppose that's one good reason to work on a painting in stages so you can hold on to something.
Definitely, definitely. I mean, literally, sometimes when we're painting our project, you know, if we're doing a project class, we're painting ourselves into a little corner, so we have, a little piece to hold on to. So I really got that light. But. And the good thing about oil paints, obviously, if any people are really watching, a lot of these paintings that you have going on, you know that we can always go back and fix it, correct it, do whatever we've got to do.
Unlike watercolors.
Right, well, that's when, I've done a lot of watercolors, and the funny thing is, you go back and forth to different mediums, and your brain has to keep adjusting to whatever it is you're doing. And I'm trying to paint, I've been painting a long time, but painting looser. Of course, this is a nice tight little picture, but I'm still trying to be a little looser. And I was going to put some clouds in the background, put a moon, and my husband said, just leave it alone. Just go with it.
I know, it might be pretty with the moon.
I kind of think so, too. I had kind of a, there's kind of like a little moon thing going over here. You still may do that.
Well, you can make multiple versions.
Well, I think 2 will be it for me. 2 will be it. But honestly, after you had talked to me, I said, well, maybe. I've done a lot of cards of Grafton. See if I can do a card out of this.
Well, even your paintbrush holder says Grafton on it.
Does?
And the mug that has the paintbrushes in it?
Oh, yes. That's why I finally decided to put my brushes in there. I thought, what am I going to do with this cup? I've had it for a while, and all it did was collect dust, and then I thought, Well, I've lived here my whole life, so Grafton's pretty important to me.
It's a beautiful town.
It is a beautiful town. I've got a little bit of this light going on. I'm going to try to keep it lighter here in the middle because I know, obviously, I want that to be my focal area because that's where that tree is going to be going.
Mm-hmm.
I want to keep the paint a little bit on the thin side so I don't lose my design back there. I mean, if I have to, I probably can go back and do some inking. Oops.
I think that would be a nice Christmas card.
I do too, actually, you know. Actually, the country store in Grafton, I don't know, you know, sometimes I do things you're not supposed to say different things, but just before the pandemic hit, the country store up in the center of town was going to have, not like a craft show, but 6 to 8 Grafton artisans Sunday morning were going to set up and sell their wares.
Mm-hmm.
And I was obviously going to sell my Grafton cards, but of course, that all got shut down.
Yeah.
So,
Well, the vaccine will roll out soon and things will get better.
I hope so. I hope so. Yep. I know, because I'm hoping, you know, Blackstone Valley has another one of those pastel classes that I'm...
Oh yeah, we're definitely going to do one soon anyway,
Oh, really?
because everyone had so much fun with that. And not only the people in person really enjoyed it, but all the people who got to watch the videos afterwards enjoyed being able to watch it
Really?
from home.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm just learning pastels, you know, but those tips that she had given us about putting the black underneath,
Mm-hmm.
that's something I've done it in other mediums. I've done it in acrylics, I've done it with oils, and I thought, wow, that was a great tip.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, Carol was talking about that specific tip when we did her session in her studio,
isn't that interesting?
because she's got it hanging on her wall right there.
Yeah. Honestly, I actually, the one that I did in the afternoon that she only gave us an hour to do,
Mm-hmm.
I made a card out of it, and the girl that gave me the picture, she ordered a dozen of the cards. It was terrific.
Oh, great.
Yeah, that was, she has taken some really nice ones, and then it couldn't have been, it was Halloween, and she took another wonderful picture in her yard. It was a picture of, she had some bales of hay with pumpkins sitting on them,
Hmm.
and then greenery in the back, and so I did a pastel of that, and I thought, oh my God, I'm loving this. I usually love everything I do. I mean, why not, right? If you're
Yeah.
doing it, you might as well love it.
Yep.
And by having this little bit of ink, I don't even have to give two thoughts about, oh, you know, where's that tree going to go? Where should it be? And because I want this to be pretty representational of the Grafton Common, sure, I could have put the tree anyplace.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it couldn't be anyplace. It had to be where it was supposed to be.
Right.
And you know, some people have done some really wonderful, very loose sketches, but you got to do what's good for you. If you need a chair or anything, Lisa,
No, I'm fine, thank you. I'm toasty warm.
I bet you are. I bet you are. That's a nice place to be. You might be too warm. Does Linda Nelson, because I see a lot of her beautiful pictures she takes, is she only a photographer or is she a painter also?
Well, she does all sorts of different things.
She does. I know I bought a bunch of cards from her,
Hmm.
just because I thought they were so meaningful. You know, you look at them and that's, you know, if you need a sympathy card, or they're just so beautiful.
Hmm.
So it's been nice. I've met some nice people through Blackstone.
Great, we have a good group.
Really, very friendly, very, very nice. Yep. Oops. How I got into the red, I don't know. That's way over here.
So with oil, do you tend to start with all the dark areas and then work your way up to the lighter areas?
No.
Okay.
No, I'd say probably just the opposite. If I was painting an apple, I'd probably be painting, you know, light to middle to dark.
Okay.
But because of the dark sky, I knew I had to start up here and work down, thinking about my hand teaching this or having you video it. So I'm kind of doing this more, you know, and I could sit down, but I think it's better for me to stand up. All right, so that's not looking too bad so far. I'm liking the way that the sky is turning out. It seems like, you know, it's not flat.
Hmm.
Have a little halo kind of around here, but the only trouble with using a medium and you go back to change it or fix it, sometimes it'll eat a hole in it and then you'll be in a worse mess than when you started off. I had watched the one you had done with, it was Vern, right? You were outside.
Yep, yep.
He was painting a church.
Yes.
And I don't know what kept going by, but some kind of a truck. And I thought, oh, that poor guy. Didn't seem quite right. I mean, I didn't watch it to the end, but that's always the way.
I think it was garbage day, and we must have been near the garbage transfer station or something, because there's just all these garbage trucks going past us.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's always something.
Always something. Yep. Many, many years ago, I was going to teach a watercolor class. You know, it was going to be on a Saturday morning. I was all set, went to the class, everybody signed up. They were going to come. I think they were going to even stay for lunch, bring in their lunch.
Mhm.
Well, lo and behold, we have well water, and we had no water from the well, so no water to paint with. Even I suppose I could have gotten bottled water, but that meant they couldn't use my bathroom,
Right.
so no class. You know, just one of those crazy things. This must be a little boring though, because I'm not too interesting here.
No, it's lovely. I like the way you're varying the darkness and lightness of it.
Oh, good. I'm going to try to keep it light as we move in here,
Okay.
and keep usually the dark corners. I may do the two bottom corners when you don't see me, but you can see how I kind of frame it with
Yep.
the dark in the corners. So
Yep.
probably when I take it in the house, I'll do that. And in order to have light, I have to have dark, and that's for the snow. So I'll have to make sure that I have plenty of dark underneath, so I'm going to have some good snow.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say, in this pandemic, I'm so lucky to love to be able to paint,
Mm-hmm.
because, you know, it just takes you away to another place. I mean, whether it's painting, everybody has their thing, but I'm just so happy that I have something.
Mm-hmm. Before, did you normally do a lot of plein air, or was it mostly inside anyway?
No, it's just in the last, say, 10 years that I started doing plein air, and not much plein air.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sometimes, honestly, I get out there, it's so hot. And as I've gotten older, I just can't stand being so hot.
Mm-hmm.
Or the bad thing is, some places that I want to go, people don't want to come with me.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I don't want to go by myself.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I like to be by myself, but because there are places that are kind of out of the way,
Yep.
I just think, be smart.
Hmm.
You don't need to be there. So I hoped that, I was going to kind of hook up, which I have with Bev and Carol, but, to get all the same, 3 people on the same page to go, someplace, it's not that easy some
Yep.
days.
Yep.
So I think I'm going to start with that a little bit. So I have a place to put my hand down.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what I'll do is I'm going to use, would you prefer to just go in on it, or just have you hold it up, or none of the above?
Well, whatever's easier for you.
Okay, well, what I think I'm going to try to do is get some of my gray values up here in the little peak area. So, it'll be, I may come back, I know I'll come back later and I'll lighten them up, but if I start here, I'm going to run my risk of putting my hand in this, so I think I have no choice but to start up here. And I can't quite decide how I painted that roof. That was my point of painting it ahead of time. No, I think it is. I think it is brown, so we'll get to that. So now even I've worked myself in kind of a corner here
Mm-hmm.
to try to get in here. Not too bad. The good thing is I know I can always change it if I have to. Okay, so I kind of have just a base coat on here. I think I better be a little darker maybe on the right and left sides. Okay, so I just darkened up the left and right. I knew I didn't want to make this picture too big, because if it was too big, then it would take me that much longer to paint it, and obviously not like Vern or
Mm-hmm.
Linda, I'm not doing a huge picture here. You see, I'm going to have to get that darker next to the little point. Alright, so while I've got this brush in my hand, maybe I'm going to get some brown, which I'm using raw on the, I'm going to try to use it straight. I'm going to try it out over here, see how the color is. Looks a little warmer than I want. The roof has little shingles on it, and that's why I've tried to make that outside line a little bumpy.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously when it's dry, I'm going to come back and I'm going to put some snow on it. one of these people that doesn't like to paint with too much paint.
Mhm.
Just kind of stretch it on.
That means you get to paint more paintings.
Well, I've also been called a cheap painter, so you know, all depends how it works out. It's a handy little thing to have.
It's a nice easel setup that it's able to hold it without touching the front of it.
Isn't it nice? Yep, because it's all good in there. The reason I'm stretching it on so much is I like the color better with a little bit of that blue shining through. It gives it a little cooler look.
Mhm.
Where when I started over here, paint was a little heavy, looks a little too warm for my night sky. So I'm happy to have it just a little bit cooler. See if I can get this on here.
I'm going to take the jacket off.
You're melting. Okay, now that I've gotten really close in there, so I can see I need to fix that a little bit. I'll go back in a minute. Alright, so I'm going to add a little bit of black. I'm just going to pick up a little black on the chisel edge of my brush. I'm going to work it off. Just so it doesn't look like straight brown here, and honestly, just kind of horizontally making some dabs on here like these would be little edges of shingles, which you probably won't even hardly see when I put the snow on the roof. But just so it's not flat.
Mhm.
Can you believe the sun's coming through that door, hitting the saw, hitting me right in the eye?
Do you want me to put the paper bag over it? Do you think that would help?
No, thank you. I think it's okay. Now this side, just
Okay.
thank you. But maybe I will have you do that. Yeah, I guess that'd be great if you could do that.
All right.
If you put the paper bag just on top of that little dust room towards the front, more this, keep sliding it more towards me. Yeah, no, I come all the way to the edge of it. Yeah, let's try that. That's a big help. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Let's see if I know what you're saying. Right, because I've just been closer, I think I need to, before it dries or sets up, I want to fix this right here. It's just a little messy looking. Sometimes you touch one thing and then you touch a million other things. I think that's a little better. Better. This is, I'm sure, nothing that anybody can see but me.
I think people see those kinds of little details as part of the holistic whole of it.
Oh, good. All right. That looks...
You know, part of what I love about your paintings are all those little details, and they all just come together nicely.
Thank you. All right. So I guess now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and I'm going to put some more of the shading onto the gazebo itself.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've tried to do is, if we can just do this by brush mixing, trying to make the pieces, that little piece in the back, a cooler gray, and the piece that comes to the front maybe a little warmer gray. So I'll use one mix and we'll see if it can have some more blue in it without stopping to mix a whole pile. See how that works. Oh, that's not where I want to be. I want it to be darker, so that's not good. I think I like that color, but I don't know if I like it now with the background, because the background won't be light enough.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I'll change that a little. Alright, so I'm going to use this color while I've got it in my brush. Hopefully it's going to be dark enough. I'm going to put a little paint on the back post here. Alright, so what I think I'll do is maybe come in here, add a little more white to lighten this up in here.
Mm-hmm.
Probably should have done this before I put those posts in, but oh well. What are we doing for time?
I think we're at 40 minutes.
Okay.
Up to you.
Is that a little more?
It's neat how it becomes more three-dimensional as you work on it.
Oh, good. When I was doing the inking a couple of days ago, I thought, oh, I got it was into a big mess, so if that ever happens to anybody, if they decide to ink it with one of those pens, you can always clean up your ink with Windex.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just squirt it on a Q-tip, and it'll take off the permanent ink.
I had no idea. See, I learned all sorts of things from you.
Oh, right, because you probably do a lot of inking in your watercolors,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Yeah.
And I just get doomed when I make a mistake.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll work. Because you can see I had a little mishap. I mean, it's not going to make it perfect, but it's going to help a lot.
Okay.
All right, so that's better. So I know I need to get a lighter gray up here, but I want it to be a little bit warmer. So I'm actually going to stop and see if I can make myself a warmer gray instead of trying to brush mix.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to use ultramarine blue and burnt umber. If you mix them in an equal amount, you get kind of a neutral gray. Let's see how it's going to work. I'm going to try to mix it a little bit to the brown side, but I may have to work back and forth. So there's two colors mixed together. I'm just going to take half of it. Add some white. Well, I can see that I'm very cool here. Got a lot of blue in here. So I'm going to take some raw umber, add it to my mixture here, see if I can warm this part of the gray up. Better to take baby steps than have to do the whole thing all over again. Okay, let's see how that's going to look.
So what do you use as a palette?
As a palette?
Yeah.
This is called a gray tone.
Oh, okay.
A gray mat is, that's a good question. A gray mat is palette because when you mix on a white piece of paper, you're mixing on that white cool surface and you get a truer reading of the paint on this gray palette.
Okay.
Even if, when I've taken classes with some people that, professionals, which I consider myself now, but before they'd paint on a piece of glass, their palette would be a piece of glass,
Mm-hmm.
but they would have gray painted on the back side of the glass.
Okay.
Or they'd have gray under there, and a middle-of-the-road gray. Just like, my cloth over there. I know my photography friend told me, sometimes when you take your pictures, it's better if you can put them on gray.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is still looking pretty cool here. Oh, that's better. We'll try it out. See how it's going to look here. Okay, well, I've matched it almost perfectly. So I want it a little bit lighter so you can at least see it. I think that'll work. Maybe after you're done shooting, I'll have to go in and perfect this a little bit. But that's okay. The nice thing about doing the pen and ink, I don't have to worry so much about the detail.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you said, oh, do that, I think, oh my God, it's not going to be easy.
Well, the right hand painting is beautiful.
Thank you. I'm really happy with the way it turned out, except the last couple of days I've been looking at it and thinking, all these little posts,
Mm-hmm.
should I put white next to them? So, because the posts aren't black, they're white.
Mm-hmm.
Not white, probably a shade of gray. Okay, so that has already helped that come forward.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I'll use that same color I'd probably go back later on and lighten this up, but now that I've been careful, I'll get a little bit of white in this top edging. And honestly, you know, we all paint differently. Somebody watching me paint is like, oh my God, this is like watching paint dry. It's so slow.
No, no. People love watching these. They're very meditative.
Oh, good. Feels like my husband's fire is getting cooler.
I know, I could just be blocking it. It's toasty warm for me.
Oh. I was worried my hands would be cold, but they're not. Alright, that doesn't seem bad. Not bad. Alright, let's see if I can get this in. I mean, you could do this with a round brush, but if you have a good chisel edge flat brush, it works pretty good. You can usually carry a little more paint along.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the right brush for the right job. So you notice, just like you had said, you know, it's becoming more, oh shoot, wrong choice. I should have done the floor first, but oh well. Get one coat on here. Not too bad. Okay, so like I was saying, I need to get something on this floor.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting how green my background is looking now against all this blue. So let's see if I can get maybe a little of the cool gray, enough just to put a thin coat down on the floor so that can be dry. That's okay. Well, my ink got a little messy here. It's almost kind of acted as a shading on my step.
Will you be able to see the ink when you're done with it?
I may go back with a Q-tip and lift some of it off.
Mm-hmm.
Because, well, when you're close to the tree, you can even see some of the inking in the tree.
Mm-hmm.
That's not bad. Isn't too bad. But now as I look at it, I think, I've got the floor of my gazebo light, the whole thing's light, so I've got to darken down the back side of the floor because it looks not right. And I don't know if you use Q-tips when you paint with water, but they're your best friend.
Okay.
You never can have enough Q-tips. Some of this you're not even going to see because obviously the tree's going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, so I could take a Q-tip. Somebody had given me these Q-tips. They're really different. I don't have many left. But this was the point when I had to clean up the the ink with the alcohol. I just put a dot of alcohol, a dot of Windex, which has alcohol in it, and it cleaned it beautifully.
Oh, great.
So, if I wanted to come in here and say lift off a little bit, I might leave the back ones on, but take a little bit off the front.
Mm-hmm.
So the back ones will stay in the back. These will stay kind of in the front. And I may think on this one, I may go in and put a little white paint on these in the front. Not to make it too difficult, but just to make it a little more interesting. And make it different from this one and see which way do I really like it better.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'll do one more thing, and I think I'll just paint. I'll start to paint a tree. So at least we'll have that much. I've got my brush cleaner. I don't really need to go in here, but I've got a lot of white in the brush. I'm going to put it on. I'm going to use my raw umber. I'm just going to use the chisel edge of my brush. Okay, now if I was doing a wash, I could keep it really thin and let a lot of that black show through, but I've got too much thinner still in my brush. And I've kind of got the same problem that I had when I was doing the roof, this blue. Maybe it's a little different than the background I had going over on this one. Looking, for me, a little too warm for what I'm wanting. Doesn't seem too bad. Maybe I'll pick up a little bit of black. I'm really not thinking too much about a light source on this tree. I'm just, on the whole picture actually. I know every time I talk to Carol Arnold, she'll say to me, well, where's your light source? Well, and then I have one of these other handy dandy little tools. It's called a wipeout tool. And really it came in particularly handy. I don't know that I need it so much for this bigger tree, but to find where I want the branches. I can see them pretty well, but I could come in here and lift out the branches, or even just lift out the snow in the branches. But it's a handy little tool. So I'm not going to do too much because I might go in and put the branches in with my littler brush or whatever, but this is a handy tool, so it's called a wipeout tool. All right, so that's where I think I'm going to quit, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, that's fine.
Be into it a good hour?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so when I see you again, I'll have base coated the trees. Is that because I really want them to dry? Because I want to put the snow on them, and I'll probably get this really dark down here in the bottom. So what I'll have left to do is put the snow on the trees, put the snow on the roof, highlight anything I need to on the gazebo, paint this tree, highlight it with snow, paint this tree. If the balls won't show up, they maybe won't. I maybe will have to do a little demonstration over here and get the snow in here. And I would think that'd probably take us close to an hour too. But I think I'm okay with it. Yeah, because this turned out good. It looks lighter here. It's darker. My sky's not quite as dark, but I think it's okay.